And here comes Milwaukee. Forbes another three. Oh, no! This is the Random Screw Heat Podcast.
You heard it in the title. We're back. And a couple things are different from the last time we spoke to you guys. The Miami Heat are Summer League champions. That's right. We've done it. Everyone's already made the joke, right, Harry, about the first trophy in the Jimmy Butler era. But it's a fact, nonetheless. And it's kind of funny that you would think about, for the Heat to have probably the greatest Summer League team from a team building perspective that they've ever had in their organization's history. Just a couple years after, you had the Tyler Duncan and Kendrick Nunn one, which was what you thought that was probably, when you think about a talent perspective, you thought that was probably going to be the best Summer League team you'd see, at least for a long time. But then no longer than, or no less than 10 years later, you see one that far exceeds that from a shot making perspective, because obviously Tyler was great on that Summer League team. Duncan was great. Kendrick Nunn was running the offense. This team had, I don't remember anybody else that was on that team. There are going to be some names to remember that were on this year's Heat Summer League team. And like you said in pre-show before we started, that game against Memphis was fun. And Keshad Johnson didn't even play. And I guess Zach Edey, you could say, didn't play too, but what a game. Overtime. Pele Larson, who really took a while, right, to kind of get going. He's kind of iffy those first couple of games, especially in the California Classic. He didn't really feel like he really belonged. He was kind of looking for his shot. Wasn't shooting well, but doing everything else pretty well. But then to finally come into his own those last two games, he was great against the Warriors and avenging the only loss that the Heat had for this Summer League group. Their very first game where they got blown off the floor by the Warriors, they come back and beat them in the semifinals, with Pele Larson having a great game, and then Pele obviously hitting the game winner, the walk-off game winner. I'm not a huge fan of the target score. I don't like how they do it in the All-Star game. I still don't really like that they do that in Summer League, but I get it. You got to keep the games going. It's fine. But hey, it worked in the Heat's favor. Really fun game. But yeah, Harry, are you feeling any type of way that we finally got to see just just a month or so after the Florida Panthers hoisted Lord Stanley's Cup, we get to see the Miami Heat Summer League team hoist another trophy. I feel like we're getting a little spoiled.
Feels good. Always feels good to win. And I thought it was a good, not only just an entertaining game, but, Memphis set out a couple guys yesterday, but they were playing three guys who have played NBA basketball for them. And G.G. Jackson, who's awesome. I was a little surprised that he was playing for them, but I guess they wanted him to get the reps. Scottie Pippen Jr., who's been a pretty good rotation guy for them in a year that was pretty injury prone last year. And then I think it's Jake Laravia. These are guys who have played NBA minutes. And so I think going in, you would have kind of picked them to win. And it was looking like that for a while. But this Summer League team was always hanging around. And they were very good at closing games, especially with Josh Christopher. He hit some big shots, especially in the Golden State game in the semifinals. And then he was hitting big threes the whole time, and there was one, I think it was when it was 97, 94, that was a big shot. But the three he hit to go up 118, 115.
Before the patented Miami Heat defensive breakdown to give up the tying three, of course.
Of course. But just an absolute prayer from Henderson, Nevada. And he dropped that in, no problem. So kind of a fun team. They had a lot of different guys who contributed, which is always fun for these kind of things. You couldn't point to one guy in any game. It was always a pretty good joint effort. And I think obviously for the Heat, and we can go through.
I heard that one.
Okay, I need to figure this out. Let me turn. Oh shoot! Hold on.
Welcome back. No, I'll take it from there. You mentioned a couple of the players that Memphis had too. Jake Labia, that was his name, and that's how I'll always refer to him. Jake Labia. What a head on that guy. Bro's got the fucking isosceles triangle build. I feel bad for his mother if she had to push that out. That's a rough scene. But Scottie Pippen Jr. too, with some of the most egregious, heinous fucking foul baiting I've ever seen in my entire life in a summer league game, no less. Whoever baited that foul, your mom's a hoe. But no, seriously, a little too many deep cut references there. I want to talk about the good about Isaiah Stevens because he was incredible. Like, Miami needs a point guard, a backup point guard. I know Spo will be a curmudgeon and he'll run Josh Richardson at point guard probably when he shouldn't. But Isaiah Stevens really throwing his hat in the ring there and coming out of nowhere really too. No one was really looking at him on their radar of backup point guard, let alone to get significant minutes for a renowned summer league squad. The only gripe I have with Isaiah Stevens is that last game against Memphis was his worst game, and I'm not too thrilled that it was his only bad game, mind you, but I'm not exactly super thrilled that his worst game came in the biggest stage, but he was getting his face fried off by Scottie Pippen Jr., baiting him into stupid fouls like on hips and stuff, where Pippen was doing this a lot to a lot of people, and it was really annoying because it's like you wonder why a lot of people don't find a lot of joy in NBA basketball lately. It's because of foul calling like that and shameless foul baiting, where it's like you're running around a screen and someone's trailing and then you stop in your tracks and then they bump into you and you get a foul call. It's like, no, that's not basketball. But if the refs are going to call it, who were, again, out of like the 9 or 10 games the Heat played, granted, they're summer league refs. So I was like, yeah, I feel like they're doing a good job. Of all games, man, the championship game, those refs sucked yesterday. That was tough basketball to watch.
Yeah, they were awful, and they just like it seemed like I thought Memphis was very aggressive, which again, credit to them. And I think you basically play tough defense until the ref says, "Hey, you're being a bit too aggressive." But it felt like constantly anytime. I know that there was a big call where Pele flopped, but he definitely got hit by 2 guys before the flop. And
not even the flop. He lost possession because Pippen slapped his arm.
Yeah, so
he's like, well, I mean,
yeah, Pippen came from his left, and I think Gigi Jackson hit him on the other side. And you're like, okay, again, I agree he flopped, but at the time the foul was called and the time he blew the whistle, this is I don't know what to do about this.
3. We're on 3. We got 3.
I'm trying to figure this out. How do I shut that off?
Well, there is a button on the side of your phone that might help you.
It's coming through the computer.
I don't fucking know. I don't know. But what I do know is Isaiah Stevens, though, if I'll try to get us back on track. Isaiah Stevens has earned one of those final 2-way slots. And does he play significant minutes for Miami? I don't know. A couple years ago, we had Kyle Guy. Last year, we had RJ Hampton. Like, there are roles that are going to be open for these younger players with potential and promise to fill. I know he's undersized. I know he didn't have a great defensive performance against a Scottie Pippen Jr. yesterday. And that was the first time he really played like a crafty guard. And the fact that he had a pretty bad performance against that, I'm not going to knock the guy. I mean, like I said, like every other game, he was phenomenal. Was not very good in the championship game. But I feel like if you're the Heat training staff, you kind of know what you need to work on, right? You got to stay in front of guys. You can't get foul baited like that. But the way that he handles the rock, like he gets people in their spots, he gets plays organized, he hits cutters, and he cuts himself too, which is, I mean, a foreign concept to guards on our team, apparently. But it's usually the bigger players that are actually cutting to the rim. The guards sit back in the corners and just wait. But it was a breath of fresh air, really, to see all these different players. I wanted to touch on each one individually because, I mean, they all kind of deserve that. But at the end of the day, you look at what the Heat have to give, right? They have one extra roster spot that they're not going to use because it'll put them over the second apron because they signed Thomas Bryant and they signed Alec Burks, which I'm not against the Alec Burks signing because what were the odds, right, for the Heat's perspective? Well, should we sign this veteran to give us like a playoff performing veteran a little bit? Or are we going to have a generational summer league team? Like you sign the veteran because you don't bank on having an elite summer league team when the last 2 years your summer league team was kind of ass. So it's like, I get that. But the decision comes much deeper than that with they're going to have to let go of 2 of the players that are currently on their two ways. And that is the man that we all know and love, Dru Smith, obviously. And it's with a heavy heart that I must admit Zion Pullen will probably he'll probably still play on the G League team, but he didn't show enough. Isaiah Stevens really took the reins from him, I feel like. And I feel like Pullen still played good. Like I was impressed with what I saw from a defensive perspective and a shot making perspective. He just didn't get a lot of minutes because Stevens was just setting up the table for everyone else. And that's not exactly Pullen's game, but I digress. Those are the two spots that are probably going to be available. I will bang my head through the wall if Dru Smith is still on this team on opening day because it's inexcusable. Isn't it? Like how could you sell that to the team? All these players, and I'll let you go in a second, Harry, all the players that we're going to talk about today have shown more in a one-game sample size that you can pick from this summer league than Dru Smith has in his entire career. I don't get, I know that might be facetious, but I don't understand how you could keep him on the two-way. And the Heat haven't done it yet. They don't need to do it yet either. They can wait a little while before they actually release Dru Smith because I know they're trying to do him a solid while paying him while he comes back from his injury. But that's got to be it. Like we can't do these handshake deals and be sweet kisses on the cheeks to players like Dru fucking Smith. You didn't do it for Dwayne Wade, but you're doing it for Dru.
Yeah, and it's just odd with him. Like he's 26. He's about to be 27. He's like 6 months younger than Bam. So he's
significant knee injury.
Yeah, so he's an older guy. He had the very unfortunate knee injury last year. I'm not sure if they were just trying to they felt bad because obviously recovering from an injury like that isn't fun. And they just here's a summer stipend kind of thing. But I guess if the Heat were super desperate and felt like they wanted a point guard they could throw in there for a game or two during the year, if they were really decimated with injuries, they would have felt comfortable with Dru. I don't know how you justify that over any of the guys that looked good on this summer league team. These are all guys, as we were talking about. So, you did a good job of setting up the roster. Oh my gosh, it's okay. Ware and Larson are already on the roster, so that's nice to have those two guys signed and pretty inexpensively at this point. Even Ware at $4 million is going to be probably a nice deal with what he does, and I just think that this is kind of like figure out the other three. And it's so weird, LJ, because everybody agrees. Like everyone wants Kishad, Stevens, and Christopher. They all make sense. They've all shown enough.
And when was the last time that the Miami Heat fan base was all in unison agreement on anything?
Never.
And everyone's coming together to be like, yeah, no, this player needs to go so we can get a much more talented, useful piece.
Yeah, no, I mean, never, ever. And it's just like these guys all fill a role that could work for the Heat. So Johnson's more of the guy. You're hoping the shooting, kind of translates to what he did in college, just under 40% from three, but is looking like a pretty lockdown defender. Some of the possessions that he was doing in summer league were excellent. Stevens, like you mentioned, is a table setter. I was very impressed with kind of his his IQ and the way he saw the court, his court vision. Not a lot of guys show that early, even in summer league. I think he ended up averaging 3.5 assists, turnovers, even with a kind of not the best championship game for him. He still put up really good numbers overall. And then Christopher's the guy who they picked up last year, I believe, has been on the G League team for a bit. They've kind of really focused on his development. He's kind of admitted since May they've really been working with him. And, I mean, he looks good. First-round talent, kind of was on Houston, fell out of favor there. These are the guys you got to take chances on. It's kind of what they did with, it didn't work out exactly for them, but he's having kind of a renaissance now. But it's what happened with Derrick Jones Jr. when they, he fell out of favor in Phoenix. They picked him up. You could tell he was a great, defensive player, and they were just seeing what kind of offensive game he had. And now he was a big contributor on a finals team for the Mavericks last year. Now he got some money to go to the Clippers. So this is a guy that I think the Heat need to invest in. And if they've spent the time since May, I don't see why they wouldn't spend some time, up until October getting him on a two-way. Again, here, let's just recap for people of whether you know or not. There are 3 two-ways available now in the NBA. I believe the rule is a player can play 50 out of the 82 can dress for 50 out of the 82 games, and then they would not be eligible for the postseason. So they'd have to be signed to the roster in order to be postseason eligible. And these can be replaced at any time. So if the Heat had signed someone and unfortunately something happened to them, like for example with Dru Smith last year, they can replace. Dru Smith was on the roster actually. Yeah.
The whole year, yep, whole year.
Anyway, but you could replace the guy, and it wouldn't affect that number of games remaining. So essentially, if you think about it, you have 150 games spread among 3 guys. If you need their help in the regular season with these two ways, and these are the 3 guys that should have it. It's kind of Kishad as the 3-and-D guy, who probably is a very easy Caleb replacement, and I think that's what they want to do with him. Stevens is really kind of a pure point guard the Heat haven't had for a while, and even the point guards who have been good on Miami have not usually been pass first guys. So even like a Goran, who was great in his time here, and I'll say the first 6 months of Kyle Lowry, they're not necessarily pass first guys. This Stevens is. It's worth taking a shot on him. And then Christopher's kind of this like athlete jack of all trades. The three's gotten a lot better. I don't think that was ever like necessarily his game, and he deserves the other one. So if they do anything else, I think people are going to be upset, and they have a right to complain, because I don't think these decisions have to be that difficult. And it seems like every time they make one, they choose incorrectly.
They have front office wise, but when it comes to these kind of players, I trust Adam Simon. I trust their development team to put some words in the right ears that need to hear it. I like you already talked about Josh Christopher, so I guess I'll continue on that trend there. That dude's got some cojones. That dude takes big shots, makes big shots. He's not afraid to shoot, but he doesn't shoot like bashfully. Like he doesn't just chuck to chuck. He takes the right shots within the system of the offense, or if the clock's running down, like I trust him with the ball in his hands to make the shot in the summer league setting. Obviously, he, like you said, he was in Houston. He fell out of favor because I think that was the year they had like 2 or 3 first round picks outside of him. So it was like, that's going to be hard to crack a rotation. It's hard enough as a first round pick to crack a rotation in like starting for the NBA anyway. When you have 2 to 3 other people of that same caliber on the same roster, that's, again, there's only so many minutes to go around for players that are new that need to, where the organization needs to see what they can do. He fell out of favor there, but like you said, he picked him up last year. He's been there for a little bit now. He's been in their system a little bit now, which we know with Spo is a huge thing, because you don't just get plucked in the Miami Heat development system. You get plucked and stashed. Christopher was stashed last year. He spent some time there, and you need to kind of work your way up from the Miami Heat, right? Like when it was Gabe and Max, and I guess to a lesser extent, Yurtseven too, honestly, they spent time. They spent the previous season, no matter how late it was when they originally got found, in the G League, in the development system, playing summer league ball, and then they got called up. Very rarely, if ever, have we seen the Heat find a player of that caliber. I guess technically RJ Hampton last year would be the only one to kind of buck that trend, not because of injuries, but because just like, I mean, obviously former first-round pick, talent, but it just didn't really exactly pan out. But Christopher, I feel like, is a little bit different there too. He wasn't known for his shot, but it has come a long way. The Heat tend to do that, right? When they find a player, they tend to find a way to get them to shoot the ball well. We saw Justice with that ugly shot. He turned into a fair three-point shooter. Josh Richardson, too, ugly hitch, fixed. Became a pretty damn good three-point shooter, especially last year before he got hurt. He was shooting, I don't remember the number, but I know he was shooting like an insane number from 3 for like a month stretch. So it's like the Heat have this way of getting players in with messy shots. And even with Caleb, you saw that the hitch go away, then it came back a little bit last year. They have a way of finding players that and adding the three to their game. It's the defensive part that they technically do struggle with sometimes, a la Duncan, Tyler, Kyle Lowry. Well, I mean, I guess Kyle's not really a fair thing because he wasn't really in their system. He was brought in. But the point remains, they have a difficult time sometimes getting players to improve their defense. I've seen the Heat many a time teach defensive players how to play offense well. Vice versa, I haven't exactly seen all that much, if at all. So you're getting a Josh Christopher who's like, I think he's like 6'4", 6'5". So like he's capable. He's a capable defender. That he has the I guess you could, what do you say? The intangibles. That's what Christopher has, where he can be taught because he has lateral quickness, something Tyler Hero doesn't have.
I think we're at the point where it's like the Heat can't continue to ignore talent. Like, you know, there are guys like we've talked about this. Duncan Robinson has one elite skill. He's a great shooter. Everything else is real tough for him.
Except passing, throwing lob passes.
Right. And so, but it took him so long to develop this stuff. Like if you sign a guy to a 5-year contract and they start, and you know, he's not young and it starts to figure it out in year 3, like has your investment really been as good as it could have been? Like think about that in any other context in life. Like
that's what my broker tells me.
Yeah. If you buy a mutual fund or you buy this, and there was another mutual fund that went up, you know, X number of % more, like, did you make a good investment? And the answer is no. So like, yes, there are certain undrafted guys who are going to be interesting. Like, I do like this Kashad Johnson. We'll see how he pans out.
We'll talk about him next. Yeah.
You know, would obviously like.
This is a Mount Rushmore podcast that we have going on here. Holy shit. I hope you guys watching on YouTube are enjoying our reaction, but I can only imagine the people just listening.
LJ, I don't understand. I've recorded on this computer before. I don't know why. I don't know why this is happening, and I don't know how to turn it off. That's what's so frustrating.
I don't know. We're gonna iron this shit through. I mean, we're doing it. We're here. We're at the 22-minute mark. We're gonna push through. But no, what were you saying? What was your point?
My point was basically like, get the talented guys and mold the talent. That's my Josh Christopher take. Like, get the talent, mold the talent.
Former first.
And then the other part is, and we kind of left these guys on the periph because they're already on the roster. Ware was excellent in Summer League. I think he was named to first team All Summer League.
Yep.
Along with Jaime as second team, which was funny because he played
2 games.
Yeah. But Ware had a great Summer League. There are things he could obviously work on. I think the rebounding's got to be more consistent. The strength's got to be more consistent. And just kind of like setting stronger screens. And then obviously the shooting is something you need to work into. But his feel around the basket, his ability to get offensive rebounds, put the ball back up, be a lob threat, be a rim runner, like things that he have not had in a long time. He can do all of that. He looked really good, and he looked confident. And when they interviewed him after the game, as quiet as he seemed on draft night, he seems like he's gained a lot of confidence in a few weeks. He's very concise in the way he speaks. He's basically telling you what you want to hear. I think on the OG podcast, they were asking him like your goals for this year. And he was like, you know, I want to be a rising star. I would love to be in the defensive player of the year conversation, which is lofty, but okay.
Hey, he gets blocks, and that's what the voters care about.
Yeah, they love stocks. So, you know, it's just kind of like, okay, they've like instilled the right amount of confidence in him where, yeah, like he's looking good. And then as you were talking about earlier on, Larson is he was kind of doing everything, but the shot wasn't falling. And then you kind of saw it in the semifinal and the final game. Like he was comfortable running offense. He was comfortable. He was gangbusters the first 2 minutes yesterday. I think he had 7 points in the first couple minutes. Then he got in a little bit of foul trouble. And then by the end of the game, I mean, he ends up taking the game-winning drive. It's not a great look. It's not kind of a disjointed play. I guess he got a decent screen from Ware, but I wouldn't call it like – don't think that's exactly what they drew up. And
either way, they drew up to get the ball in his hands, which I was surprised with the Londis and Josh Christopher out there too. They chose to put the ball in Pele's hands.
I think it's because Pippen was guarding him, right? So you have a bit of a size advantage because Pippen's I don't want to say he's
not a good defender.
He's decent, but he was just grabbing so much yesterday. But I think in terms of when they saw it, it's like, okay, this guy's got the size advantage. He has a strength advantage. Let's see what he can do. And, it's one basket. At that point, is one next basket wins. And he made a nice look. And I like the I forgot the term, but I like the game going to
target score.
Yeah, I like it because I knew when it was going to end, and I didn't want it to go on for much longer. So
that's true. Some people have other things they need to do. I'm a degenerate, so I didn't, but yeah, I understand other people are.
Yeah, I don't know how long it took time-wise to get to the 120, but it felt shorter than a usual overtime period, and maybe not with the ref review, but and all that other stuff, but. Yeah, I thought it was good, and I thought the 5 guys we mentioned, basically the 2 guys on the roster and the 3 guys we believe should get the 2 ways, is like a nice young core to get that out of one draft class in which you haven't done a lot in the offseason and you need a lot of help to infuse that type of talent. I think is impressive, and now let's make the moves to figure out where the team is going. Whether that involves, finally moving on from Jimmy this year or using some of these guys, we have other young guys on the roster who also could make some sense elsewhere. Like not everyone's going to be able to play. So if there's a deal out there where you can attach Jovic to a hero and make a move, I'm interested, if it's for an upgrade, if you can, I was talking to a friend at dinner earlier, if Ware comes out playing very well, I'm not expecting him to average 18 like in the summer league, but if, he's averaging 8 and 7 or something off the bench and a team comes knocking and they want him and someone else to upgrade the roster and you can get off some of this money and improve the team, I don't see why we're not doing that.
For Ware?
For whomever.
I was going to say, I'm with you in the vein of the idea. You'd have to get someone pretty decent back. I would say to give up someone that at least finally for the first time looks like Spo might play on the floor with Bam and won't be a defensive liability, or that can fill Bam's minutes without being an insane liability. You would have to give me something not like superstar level, but something significant.
Well, let me come back with a question then. So if before Ware was drafted, if they had been Tyler and 15 for, I'm trying to think of a Tyler 15 and something else for Murray, you would have done that, right?
Which Murray?
DeJounte.
Yes, I still would have done that.
Okay, would that have changed if he was still available?
No, that I feel like he's the floor of the what do you call it? The what I would want back, that type of significant value, because that solves offense.
Yeah,
that just solves your offense, which is something that at least this Spo run team for the last 2 years now hasn't looked good.
Yeah, see, I think we're a bit different because people now would tell you that Ware's untouchable, right?
He's not. He's not. DeJounte Murray, I would do it.
But that's where I think that's what happens with these things. He had a great summer league. I'm not taking anything away from him or the team or, I think he has a bright future. And obviously I hope it translates to the league, but nothing's guaranteed. And if you could give me the better guy now, I'm happy to do it.
If they're still committed to winning now, if they, and you said it too, they have they went to Publix and they completely refilled the pantry, which is something that they've been struggling, man. They were eating rice cakes and ramen for the last couple of years, but they got they got the pub subs now. They got some delicious things in the cupboards. They're eating good. So now you have to make a decision on your direction because they're eating good, but all of it is it's younger players and they're not going to help you win a championship right now. I feel like Kashad Johnson, I feel like Khalil Ware, maybe even a Pele Larson. Pele Larson can get plugged in now. Kashad can get plugged in now too because that's just who they are, right? They're role players. They can fit the role depending on who's leading the team. The younger players, though, especially like a Khalil Ware, because I don't know if Khalil Ware is really going to play all that much this year. I still think both those players, Kashad and Pele, are going to play more minutes than Kashad or than Khalil Ware, and that's just because of who's ahead of them, right? Because Pele is he's stocky. He plays defense. He can put the ball on the floor, and you feel good with the ball in his hands, going at least running a pick and roll, and he can play perimeter defense a little bit, and he's athletic, something we haven't had in those positions in a while. Kashad, like you said earlier, good Caleb Martin replacement. It kind of just fits like a glove, right? If the glove fits, wear it, OJ. I think they're going to try the glove on with Kashad, and I think it's going to fit. Then again, in the OJ case, you're not supposed to try the glove on, and it ruined everything. So will playing Kashad and Caleb's role ruin everything? I don't know. Some things correlate in life, some things don't. But
I think, for him, like, obviously I didn't want him to get hurt in the summer league, but you could tell like pretty early on, like, okay, this guy makes sense on this team.
He's different. Yeah, you could see it against the Warriors.
And if the Heat, for example, like whether they wait until February and then sign him, at the reduced rate where he can fit under the second apron, or they make a move and they want to bring him up, like no issues with that. And again, I don't really have an issue. If they wanted to sign any of these guys to a contract, I wouldn't have an issue with it. It's simply once you realize that they're good enough to be rotation players, then I want them moved. Like,
it depends on the direction.
Well, right, but it's also, so for example, right? So the Heat saw Caleb was good. They, he plays the year and they get him on that 3-year, $24 million. It was less, 3 for 21 or something like that, or 3 for 20. So great. You got a guy who's a rotational piece locked in on a really nice deal at $6 million a year. Tell me when removing him, because you're not gonna want to pay his next contract when he's 30 years old. I mean, they did, but for whatever reason, his agent didn't want to do it, and the Heat kind of got lucky that they screwed that up, because inking Caleb to a 5-year deal would have been a bad move.
Very bad move.
Right. And so
they caught a break.
So same thing here. So they got, for example, Highsmith locked up 2 years, $10 million. Fine contract, whatever. The moment someone comes calling for Haywood Highsmith,
you listen now.
Gone. No,
you need to listen now.
Gone.
Had the summer league not gone the way it did, I feel like they would have been a little more selective with who they were willing to part with. But now you don't need. It's not as valuable. And I think obviously it's all just make believe now. But when the season actually happens, and it depends on what their record is, whether or not they punt, because I feel like they don't traditionally punt, but they might have to this year if they fall behind a little too much. Jimmy's still disengaged, even though I think he will be significantly engaged. If things don't go your way and you find yourself behind the 8-ball come trade deadline, I would not be surprised if they offload a Haywood Highsmith and let some of the younger players take those minutes, just because that makes sense. If you're not going to win anything and someone's offering you a fair deal, a good deal, like what they were offering for Max Strus a couple years ago, you take that deal, because he's not making a lot of money, and it just makes sense in the terms of, you've seen these players that we all just saw in the summer league. Some of them are NBA ready. And I personally was of the belief that Haywood Highsmith was not NBA ready 2 years ago when they were giving him minutes. I did not think so. Last year, I thought was the first time he looked like he knew what to do on an NBA floor with the basketball. It's taken him a long time to do anything with offense. He's still very good on defense. But again, that's not what the team needs. So, to your point, though, to go back to your point, if someone comes calling, they need to answer.
And I think it's not like, it doesn't matter your attachment to Highsmith, if you like him or you think he's the devil like Royal does. Like, essentially, come December, if a team's like, we could really use a wing defender, and they're like, we're gonna offer you 2 seconds for 2 years of Highsmith, you're like, absolutely.
Yep, because that's how you make other trades to unlock first-round picks.
Yeah, you put Kashad Johnson on the roster, and you hope he learns quick how to be. He's not going to be. Listen, Highsmith's an excellent defender, so I'm not saying that you're going to plug this guy in and he's going to be Haywood Highsmith. But maybe there's other parts of his game that he's better at. Maybe he's a competent defender, and not maybe you're getting a like what's the term? The win above replacement. Like maybe you're getting a guy who is actually better based on the other skills that he has. So that's where I'm at. I'm not, and I don't expect the Heat to just immediately, replace the guy. It's not going to be a painless process, but for a team that's really dearth of assets, and every year we have the discussion why they can't make moves, and even at times where like this would have been a good year to get off of contracts, so having some extra seconds to do that would have been helpful. They have what, 2 and maybe another one that could become a second. It's just they put themselves in a bad spot. So I think we need to. Someone was getting mad at me yesterday because I said, yeah, let's I think I made the tweet like these 3 should be the two-way guys, and they were like, you're always so angry, we can't even celebrate the summer league. I was like, you can do whatever you want, man. Like if you want to go throw a summer league championship party or hang the banner, please be my guest. I hope that makes you happy, and I hope it brings joy to you and your family. For me,
brought me a lot of joy last night.
Yeah, hey, it was a great game. For me, I enjoyed the game. I'm glad we won. I wouldn't have wanted to lose. Happy we won. Happy for those guys. The championship rings were awesome. Like those were cool.
That is cool that they do that. That's one of the only cool things I've actually liked that Adam Silver's implemented. A lot of the other stuff that bald bitch has done has not really been up my alley, but that's one of the few things.
Yeah, so it's just kind of like, great, enjoy the game. Now, how do we make the big league team better? Because, the G League team will probably be decent. That guy seemed like a great coach. I'm excited for him to be the G League coach.
I liked what he was. I liked the sets he was running on offense. It was Spo-esque, but it had some different flair to it. Way more like actual setting, like set plays that he had going with that allowed like rolling to the basket. And maybe it just looked like there was more of that because they had a guard that could actually get the ball to the lobber, to the roller. So maybe that's all it was. But to me, it looked different.
No, but you're probably right. Having Stevens, who was so pass first, and having a lot of guys that had no issues lobbing the ball to Ware and putting them in good positions, with a lot of guys who were comfortable cutting to the basket, is going to make an offense look better. I did like the sets he was running. It's another video coordinator to head coach pipeline, so we'll see what happens from there. But again, like they played great. They deserve nothing but respect and admiration for what they did. Congrats. It's not easy going 6-0 in Vegas. There's you're playing a lot of different guys, a lot of different teams, a lot of guys that are hungry trying to make the league. So that's even harder. And like I said, in the Grizzlies game, you were playing against 3 guys who have played professional basketball before. These were not other guys. This was their first like NBA experience or action.
And Gigi Jackson's going to continue to get a lot of minutes on that Memphis team, even with people healthy. That's a good player.
I do not know why we keep letting these guys drop to Memphis. It's frustrating. They've really drafted well over the last few years, but
don't worry, they'll trade for Marcus Smart sometime this year. Trust. Yeah. We don't even want that. I'm just literally just what it feels like. That feels like a very Miami Heat trade.
Yeah, I'd just be down for a shakeup that saves a bit of money and can put them into a better spot for like upcoming seasons. I'm not expecting anything. I don't think they're ever winning a championship with Jimmy here.
It's starting to look that way. Yeah.
But I'm not saying they're not going to do it with Bam. Bam's got some years to figure this out, and the Heat can do some stuff. They just have to get rid of some of the dead weight and bring in guys that kind of make sense. And right now I think you're kind of looking at the team. The offseason was again kind of lackluster and
a blip on the radar.
Yeah, and so you're looking around and you're thinking, okay, they're not, I would never be surprised if they, won some series in the East, but I'm just not, there's no expectation of that to actually happen. And, let's take these summer league guys, let's put the guys in the right spots to succeed and continue to get better, and let's build something. And when a team if they're not doing well and a team comes knocking for Jimmy, let's talk about it. And if they're not doing well and if a team comes knocking for Highsmith, let's talk about it. And if a team for some reason interested in Tyler Hero and attaching a Jovic or someone
Deal. It's done.
makes an upgrade, let's do it. Like, I don't think this team is one that you need to continue to stick with, and I think it's been a bit frustrating why they do. So use the summer league talent. Use Adam Simon, who's been a great scout and evaluator for the Heat. Use his skills and know that if we give up, if we sign Johnson and we end up trading him, he'll find another one. If Pelle Larson ends up doing well,
it's never been more obvious that like the talent here. I mean, they've made it an off-season wise, like speaking in that term, they have made it a very much easier pill to swallow when you look at multiple young, talented players that are going to be flourishing in this system. And I feel like a lot of your Twitter haters aren't going to like that I'm saying this, but I'll say it anyway. I feel like you had your swan song about 2 years ago with all the second round picks finally coming into fruition. I feel like you're going to get a swan song 2.0 this year, talking about getting off of players while like they have value to them, because I genuinely feel like because of the additions that they're making through these two-way contracts and summer league teams, I think it's going to make players on technically expiring contracts much more expendable.
Yeah,
I think this is the year it happens. I genuinely think this is the year you see a move with some significant names that are on a Miami Heat roster. They finally do get moved.
Yeah, and I think it's so obvious this year, for example, with Caleb, who I mean, you want to talk at the peak of his value after that Eastern Conference final and the series he had. And now I'm looking at three guys in Johnson, Christopher, and Larson, who all in some way could probably fill into his role. I'm not saying they're going to be Caleb right away, or I don't know what they would do in the postseason, for example, but I'm saying style of play and player and obviously a cheap asset that they found, or for Larson is a second round pick that they, he's making $1 million a year. So it's great value if he gives you anything this season. It's like, it's okay to move on from these guys. And if you just get a second round pick back, people are saying, oh, the camaraderie or this or that are going to upset the team. How do you do that to a team that made the finals? That team lost the finals.
Team's going to be happy that there was a shakeup.
The team is going to be interested in seeing what the future moves are because they're tired of being in second place. And that's where we are with them. And so this is the new transition, in my opinion. Like, they have this great, they will find guys that are Heat culture, Heat players that'll fill these roles. What's the next step? It's trading them at the height of their value to bring back assets so the next guy's ready to go. And you just start this system so that when a player does ask out, when a team comes knocking, when there is a star that they want, they can put assets on the table and maybe even have to overpay a little to not have to worry about other teams swiping them and sniping them.
And as you were saying, that method only works if you have an Adam Simon that can continually replenish those desirable assets. I know everyone always likes to say like, oh, the Heat don't have any assets. That's changing. That tune's changing. Jaime Jaquez. I feel like we were all kind of continue to be wrong about Jaime because we didn't love the pick at the time. We were proved wrong pretty quickly about that he was an NBA player and a pretty damn good one at that. But then we thought, well, this is probably his ceiling, right? He's an older player coming out of college, wasn't a great shooter. This is probably like his peak last regular season is like, well, this is probably who he is. He came into summer league, man, just balls to the wall. Like his first time in summer league last year, it looked like, oh, okay, yeah, no, this guy belongs. Like he's an NBA player, he belongs. This year was like, dude, this guy, get him off the floor in a good way. Like, do not risk injury. Jaime has shown he is so much better than everyone on the floor. I think he's going to continue to get better.
Yeah, I mean when you're looking at summer league and you bring back a guy for a second year, when you see that they're basically outclassing other guys, and you're just like, okay, they don't need to be out here. They don't actually belong here, in a positive way. That's how you know you're in good shape. So it's a nice leap he made. Obviously, let's see what he does in the regular season. Let's see if, he's obviously going to have to avoid kind of the wall he hit last year, which is probably groin injury related. So
for sure,
that's but again, this is just these guys. I think you just spoke about it, but Adam Simon is providing insurance for the Heat. He's basically bringing up the guys in the back end, saying you can get rid of some of these guys because I'm going to find the talent here, whether it's through first round picks in the draft, or if they have a second or undrafted free agency. Like, I'm going to provide that insurance for you, and the Heat need to cash in on that. It's been foolish that they haven't been doing that.
And speaking of insurance, I saw Harry wanted to pull it up too. Shout out to my boy George, your primary sponsor of the Basement, Simple Health Advisors. Insurance doesn't need to be complicated. Email them or give them a call today. Tell them that the Basement sent you. You can email them at jpough@simplehealthadvisors.com or give them a ring on the telly, 321-345-7738. Shout out to my boy George. He can't be here today. He's on vacation. He's on holiday around the world. But he'll be back soon enough. And when he's back, we'll welcome him back with open arms. Thank you guys for listening. Harry, do you wanted to say anything else before we hit the road?
I wanted to say that I thought that accent was very good. So
Thank
nice
you.
job.
I've been standing in the mirror every night after I got out of the shower just practicing it.
And I also wanted to apologize to everyone because I figured out how to fix my phone, but it happened after we got 3 texts and a phone call. I'm sorry. I'm a busy person.
One of the best episodes we've ever recorded, if you ask me. Personally.
That's
all right.
good.
Thank you guys for listening. We'll catch y'all in the next episode. Who knows when the hell that'll be, but it'll be sometime. And if Tyler Herro's still in this roster, Harry might not be here, but we'll see what happens, guys. We love you as always. Take care and remember to be good people.
Need a stop and a rebound. Fournier for 3.
Oh my. That was the Random Scrub Heat podcast.